All right, so this is the newest recording it for my journal discussions subject list that I have on my State of Jamaican Caribbean YouTube page, and the topic is going to be the culture of cowardice, and this is something that I've been wanting to do for a long time after I started the playlist, and so this is going to focus primarily on the Jasmine Deen story. If you know Jasmine Deen, the U student that blind, visually impaired U student that went missing earlier this year, and so far not much has been done. They've had some suspects have been brought in custody, so far nothing's been said. Now I'm going to say shout out to Politics Watch, who's one of my top YouTube channels that I follow, and he said better than I could this week though, because he just said something about the many of the birds in Bull Bay, and it just goes beyond just Bull Bay. It's unfortunately it's the culture of cowardice that I meant, the aforementioned statement that I've just brought up, and I was going to go into it. So what the zest of it is that there's supposed to be a protest about Jasmine Dean, because what's happened is that there's been this fake media outcry about her about solving what happened to her, and yet nothing has been done. So let's just go into court, and this is going to get into the culture code that we're talking about. So Fairmont residents have been blamed for the low turnout of the scheduled protest for the return of Jasmine Dean, the 22-year-old visually impaired student who went missing earlier this year. According to one resident, it is alleged that persons in the Bull Bay St. Thomas community where Dean lived have expressed fear due to the fact that two men who were suspects in her disappearance, are from the community. I said 44-year-old Tamar Henry, also called Brave and Lavish, and 36-year-old Gregor Wright, otherwise called G, remain in police custody after being charged with possession of ID, unauthorized access to computer data, and simple larceny. It doesn't say who's related to Jasmine Dean, but whatever. I think they're indicated they're on some other charges. But let's continue. Based on information that we're gathering, it's not a case where persons would not want to come out on doing or because upon doing a solicitation we got. I don't know if I read that wrong. Based on the information we're gathering, it's not a case where a person would not want to come out because upon our solicitation we got 100% support from the community, but a lot of persons aren't coming out. Persons are fearful, I believe, and also what related to me was the fact that individuals have been apprehended ones from the area. So right off the bat, it tells us that Jasmine needs to accompany someone that knows her. What also says Fatima Makil of these neighbors. Yeah, so there's much more to it than that. I think it said that just the people who were brave enough to come out were just our neighbors and our family. All right, and all right, so this is all right. I think this is the last quote. I think it's very interesting. This is not a general search and rescue where we don't have any clue. The individual's called Dean's card. The individual called Dean's phone. How does he got the positions? Very good question. We need the community members saying we need a speedy apprehension of the culprit who took Jasmine Dean. And end of quote. All right, so there you have it. It says that there are two suspects in her disappearance. I think so. One of them's from the area. I think it just which is indicating that the suspects in particular, these are some dangerous individuals, and I think it's just hinting that the people are so afraid of this particular individual. What they meant to say is the people who he's connected to, and that their claim is that they're not turned up for that, and the thing is, I feel a way about it though. It's just so saying what it says to me is that this just confirms more the guilt of the suspects. Because okay, if they're so for if the residents are afraid to come out because of fear for their lives, um, because of these two suspects going in from the area, that means that that suspect that they have is definitely guilty. Because they retrieved information from got some Jasmine Dean's card and her phone. So that tells us that they're not as innocent as they look. That they're more suspects that they know what's going on. But you know what's going on? That also means that the people in that area know more what happened to Jasmine Dean than they're letting on. But hey, they're not willing to step forward. And yeah, people will say, okay, they're afraid for their lives, but the thing is that also tells you that if this one of the suspects has this much power or control, that means that also means that these people that these some people in the area are protecting and supporting this guy. And this is where the culture of cowardice comes in right there, is that okay, we're so okay, it's not even so much a fear that okay that all these residents are afraid of this guy, this suspect. There's more fact that a lot of them are protecting or in cahoots with this suspect, because that also tells you that they know more what happened to Jasmine Dean. And Politics Watch said it better than I ever could when he did a drop this recording earlier this week. And this is where it tested the culture of cowardice. Now, you notice the thing is that whenever innocent civilians, or most innocent civilians, or ordinary civilians, I should say, that end up dead or missing, okay, that these a lot of communities or in general public, they're just quiet as a church mouse. Yeah, we'll have people banging the drums online, yeah, like I'm doing. But the thing is that there's not this big support and whatever. But when a lot of these criminals from these communities are being gunned down, killed, especially by the police. Oh, you have all these residents showing up in masses, masses, and crying that these guys were salt of the earth, good patrons. They're pure as a wind-driven snow. That these guys are angels, angels with these golden halos, strung, plucking their golden harps, all of the sorts. So you don't really see that same energy when a lot of these criminals, ones that are these communities, um, terrorizing these communities get. All right. So, and I think what Politics Watch said is that there are, as a class system in certain areas in Jamaica, like ordinary civilians in certain areas who are not criminal scumbags. Yeah, these are on the lower tier. These are lower tier citizens, but the ones who are criminal low lives, whether it's ordinary street thugs or they're duns or whatever. Yeah, they rise higher. They're higher on that social ladder in these areas, and these are the ones that are these are the ones that get all the protection. These are the ones that get all the glorification, what so to speak. But people like Jasmine Dean, they're not really going to play support. And the reason I say is that I'm not buying this excuse that oh they're so afraid because of these suspects that they won't count in mass. All right, it's just that a lot of them just didn't care. All right, and a lot of them are more know what happened to Jasmine Dean, but hey, that wall of silence that a lot of Jamaicans in various communities and have. This is again is a culture of cowardice, right? Because we have normalized and also we've accepted cowardice and cowardice as a way of life, that okay, that doing right is wrong, wrong is right. And this lack of people, the very few people that want to show up, that's just showing you that this is how prevalent that culture of cowardice is in Jamaica. Because kind of thing is like, to go back to us saying, okay, if these suspects, especially one that's in from an area, has so much power and so on, they could say, why didn't they just go to the police? Yeah, I mean, I know the other side of that is that a lot of the police, unfortunately, again, not to beat upon everyone in JCF, because I've had criticisms of the JCF that, yeah, you have way too many of the cop police who are either unresponsive or indifferent or corrupt. That and chances are many of them are in league with a lot of these criminal elements. So I can understand that argument that we're not really going to do why they haven't gone to the police for the ones who really know what happened to Jasmine Dean and the countless other victims. But all right, but there should have been a case, and this should have been decades ago, that Jamaica. I have said this before. Jamaica doesn't have a warrior class, especially in a lot of these communities, because if they know who did what to Jasmine Dean, certain people in these communities would not be protecting these culprits. They would have found out who had her or found what uh, happened to her, and take justice into their own hands. At that point, that's the only choice you have. It all right, because system unfortunately doesn't care. Yeah, there's this fake concern about Jasmine Dean, but let's just say that Jasmine Dean is just an ordinary Jamaican civilian. Alright, but at the end of the day, unless Jasmine Dean comes from a uptown community, she's a family member of a notable from a notable family. Let me rephrase: if she came from a notable family in Jamaica that was high up on the social scale in Jamaica, yeah, justice would be done. But again, but the thing is that Jamaicans, for the most part, need refuse to move by that obvious fact that weed is damned if you do, damned if you don't. And unfortunately, in cases like this, that cowardice, and in some cases, the what's the term I'm looking for, the culture of complicity, and I want to do a recording on that also. That comes into play all when it comes to cases like this. Alright, and the thing is that many Jamaicans, that we do not have this warrior spirit right here. Because in that case, this bullshit where only a few people turn out to protest for Jasmine Dean. Yeah, you'll have some. I've had multiple people who are going to the U.S. Embassy in Ligoni protesting with George Floyd, and that's good. I mean, I've covered that protest early on several weeks ago, and that's good and all. But you don't see that same level for a lot of the Jamaican civilians who are victims of the crime wave. But this is a lot of, I'm just saying this, that this is an example of that culture of cowardice that permeates a lot of Jamaica, that permeates the whole island. All right, because at this point, as I said, that the people in Bull Bay are just basically saying that we know more than we're talking what happened to Jasmine Dean, and it's not even fair of these criminals that we're not coming forward. It's just that many of them are cool with these criminals, and we're okay with protecting a lot of them. All right, and despite how many people that they end up harming, and the thing is, the problem with that is just that when these same criminals end up turning on you, and that always does happen when you coddle a mad dog or poisonous snake, eventually that mad dog or that poisonous snake is going to act in nature and turn and bite somebody. That always happens in the end. But but again, this is just that culture of cowardice that we have, that we've been ingrained cowardice as a norm. And the thing is that cowardice, unfortunately, does not protect you from being harmed. That just enables you to be harmed by the forces of darkness. Right? And so this is what I basically want to say when I did this general discussion, that this whole thing where a lot of these residents are claiming that, oh, they're shying away because of fear. All right, apparently, yeah, fear. Yeah, that's just a very bad look. All right, and yeah, people will say, oh, if we did that, these gunmen and criminals would target people. And yeah, I understand that though, but there's a difference between fearful and being a damn coward. And because being fearful means you acknowledge that there's someone or a group of people is a threat to you, can harm you or do whatever. But the thing is that you overcoming that fear or saying, what am I going to do about the threat that is how am I going to neutralize or take out that threat, threat that this person or these individuals pose. But all right, and cowardice, that means that okay, I'm giving this person people power over me. I'm just gonna roll over. I'm gonna let them push you around and kick you around and not do anything about it. Rather than saying again, how I'm gonna take out, neutralize or take out that person. And the thing is, I said that many people, especially in Bull Bay and these other residents, that a lot of it's because many of these criminal suspects are being protected within these communities by some of these residents. So residents. But again, that's when you have that culture of cowardice where we decide that criminal elements have power over us, and it's not because that they're these supernatural aliens from outer space that have these powers. It's just that we're unwilling and unwilling to take that power from them, and this is the end result here. And I say this, the point I'm making is that Jamaica, you need a warrior class, all right? Because this, as I said, this was a very bad look. And And I've said what I could about Jasmine Dean. I can only hope that she's safe and alive, but that's 50-50 at this point. But to the Bull Bay residents, this was a bad look, all right? And look, all right, because what they're just telling me is that you know more about what happened to Jasmine Dean at letting on. And you also tell me that these suspects, if that they're apparently so afraid of, that means that a lot there are a good amount of people protecting them in that community, all right, and again that all boils down to that culture of cowardice that we've ingrained. But I also want to talk about the culture of complicitness as well. So that would be a follow up in my next general discussion whenever I do that. So this for State to Jamaica and the Caribbean. Check out my YouTube pages, Mal's Goods and Fern, Mal's J Productions, and Real Thoughts and Mal's. Okay.